Having left Dinosaur National Monument, it's time to move on down the road. My goal this time is to get on down to the Grand Junction, Colorado area. This is a nice little spot which has a basic settling ground for a few different areas. First thing, we have the Colorado National Monument, and also not too far outside of Grand Junction, we also have the Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park, which I didn't even know existed until I was studying maps. This is why I like paper maps as opposed to working with these pesky GPSs. The GPS is kind of like if you envision the interstate in the movie Cars, where the scene is up there and the two characters that are talking about, they get up on this overlook and overlook all of the beautiful scenery that all these cars are missing because they're just driving quickly on the interstate. Well, that's the GPS in our life. We program that little car GPS. It tells us where to go. We don't really pay much more conscious attention than being a slave to the thing on the dashboard. Turn left, turn right, crash into that wall. But, that being said, we tend to go. The fact of the matter is, it's worth slowing down a little bit, staring at the maps, seeing what else is around, because I missed a wonderful national park that I didn't even know existed. And I worked it in such a way that I could actually hit a national monument and a national park all in the same day. I had a wonderful day. I enjoyed myself greatly. And I'm going to show you the two places we went. So I overnighted actually at the Fruita rest stop, and we'll come back and talk about that a little bit later, which is just about 2 or 3 miles outside of the Colorado National Monument. Now, I would recommend actually entering the Colorado National Monument from the Grand Junction side, because every pull-off is going to be on your right-hand turn instead of on your left-hand turn. We'll get into that in the video. But nevertheless, if you are trying to hit 2 things in one day, starting in Fruita, going into the Colorado National Monument, driving through that, and then heading over to the Black Canyon is all doable, even in the short days of winter. So first I got to get to Grand Junction, and we had to drive through the Pinata, something canyon down here. And this is just a beautiful place. There's several rest stops along the way. You can stop and hike, and just some of the best scenery you will ever find down there in Colorado. And this is just that work, just kind of moving along and just progressing on down through with just getting to the different areas. We had a couple mountain passes go over. I even saw some snowflakes as we crossed over some of these canyons. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and get to Grand Junction and show you a little bit about Colorado National Monument first.
Well, welcome to the Colorado National Monument. Some of these parks, I don't even know they're there, but I'm picking up maps. I'm just looking at the maps. Where am I at? I realize there's a national monument very close where I was going to stay, like within 5 miles. And there's actually another national park very close by that. So I'm going to go down and do that one as well. So this is the Colorado National Monument. Very nice preserve, carved out actually by a kind of a loner woodsman guy. He basically carved the original paths on this place by hand. And the cowboys used to run their cattle up these hills in just a little crisscross patterns just to move herds for between the summer and the winter. So this is a very nice place up here, and there's about a 23-mile loop to do back here on car, and there's several places to stop and hike, and I have to be really careful because whoa, that's a long way down. Yeah, I gotta be a little careful up here filming, but overall though, this is pretty good. A lot of good views if you're looking for some good views out here in Colorado. Now, of course, it is a national monument, so it costs like $25 to get in unless you have an annual pass. It's included in that. If you're on more of the eastern side of the state, this doesn't look too dissimilar than from the Garden of the Gods, which is a free admission. And so if you're just looking for some scenery like this in Colorado general, Garden of the Gods, actually that one is a little bit sandier and smoother rock formations. But this one is just beautiful. This is the type of place I like. It just looks really good, really desolate. although I have passed one person on this trail so far. But definitely cool. I'll have a bunch more photos here of the different canyons and places that we've done. But these are those old places worth going and checking out.
As I was making my way up the canyon, up to the visitor center, I was kind of following around a little bit. A UPS truck was right in the vicinity. And I'm not sure if he was right behind me or a little ahead of me, but I approached the visitor center about the same time he was walking into the visitor center to drop off some packages. And I asked him what it's like to drive on this road every day. And he just said, well, you get sick of it after a while. I guess it's true. You know, after enough steak and lobster, it all tastes like cardboard. And sometimes we forget in the way we live our lives, the most amazing and beautiful things around us can actually seem boring after a period of time. Maybe that's what part of this journey is about. To keep on seeing new things, to not lose the mystery and the joy and the intrigue of life. These are the things that keep us going. They're the things that give us the stories. They're the things that allow us to continue moving on, to carry on excitement through a regular day. I mean, sure, if I was the UPS driver and it was simply my job to drive on this road every single day, it might eventually be like, I gotta go back up there to the top of the mountain to deliver a few packages. But the reality is, maybe we can enjoy it. Maybe we can enjoy those times, those circumstances, those situations. The reality is, when we stop having such joy, that is when life becomes horrible. So let's consider that as we carry on and have a further look at what is on the Colorado National Monument.
And here we are now on the opposite side of the canyon from where we were. No, I didn't hike all the way around. It is about a half a mile or so drive. And there is where I filmed the previous bit from. It's actually pretty close to the visitor center, which is obscured by this bush here. If I can get really close to this cliff edge here without, falling to my death. Visitor center's right over there if you can see it. Very nice. But yeah, there we are. There's how close between me and death. I don't want to go down there though. So anyway, this is Otto's Trail. The opposite one was called Canyon Rim Trail, and I forgot which one was which, so I didn't call it out by name in that specific video. But Canyon Rim Trail goes across the canyon rim out to there, and then Otto's Trail is the same trail out on this end as well, except this one is a much narrower canyon. This one here, we see the downslope here and there. So we're actually on a very faint point. And this is on a I think it's the Red Canyon fault line. It's a fault line. So if there's an earthquake right now, I might be screwed. So if you don't hear from me forever, send people out to find me. All right, so this trail here is named for John Otto here, and he is the one who petitioned to protect this area as a monument, rallying and petitioning people, and then he eventually, when it did become a monument, he became the park's first custodian. He was paid $1. Now the rock behind you here, he started a tradition back there in 1911. He started a tradition to climb up that rock and put a flag up there on the top every July 4th. And that tradition does continue today by hikers. So it is literally a very, very sheer hike up there, and they will mount a flag up there. And you can actually read a little bit more about the placard right here, but it also indicates here that that is Independence Rock. He was married at the foot of that rock, and his wife only lasted a week or two because he insisted on living out here in a tent rather than the romantic lifestyle of a mountain man that his wife thought she was getting. So that marriage did not last long. He loved the land more than her, and that was that. So that is Otto's Trail, Independence Rock, and a little bit about how Colorado National Monument became to be.
And to think, I almost missed Colorado National Monument. I didn't know this was a thing. I just happened to know I wanted to go to the Grand Junction area because it's the fastest way to get to Moab from Dinosaur National Monument without having to transverse a few mountain peaks. So, head on over, stop at a town in the visitor center just over into Colorado, picked up a map, started studying it, and I'm like, there's actually a national park and a national monument pretty close. I live in a van. I'm not rushed. Why should we rush life? I mean, people have heart attacks rushing too much. I mean, I don't want one of those. So I looked at the map and I said, well, what can I do to hit these guys? And I did hit them both in one day. And honestly, I think that was probably a good plan. It looks by now the video is getting a little long, so we'll talk about the Black Canyons of the Gunnison next time. But for now, you feel on top of the world going through this monument. This road here has sheer cliffs on either end, several of the different tunnels and things like that. And the reality is, it is such a beautiful place. And to think, I almost missed it because I didn't know it was there. That's why we need to stop worrying about plugging in the numbers on our GPS and just going where it says. Start consulting real maps. See what else might be around you. You might be in for a surprise to find some interesting things. I mean, you too could be on top of the world, overlooking cities in a distance from red rock canyons in this particular national monument. Nevertheless, we should always be seeking adventure in our life.
So I made it up to the last hike I'm doing today in the Colorado National Monument. This is the Devil's Kitchen. So it's about a 3/4 mile hike. You get up and then you stand in the middle of all these monoliths, and I guess from here you sell your soul to the devil. I'm not quite sure. Or you eat some deviled eggs. It is the Devil's Kitchen, after all it says. So very nice place though. And not too bad of a hike. We have the road. It's coming down over there. You may or may not be able to see some cars coming down. I think there's one about to round the bend. So that's the road that comes down the mountain. So you're basically on top of that. Then if I go this way, out there is going to be the town of, I believe that's going to be Grand Junction. I'm not as familiar with the geography here, but this will bleed out into the Grand Junction area. And that would be a big city down there, and there is an interstate going through it. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be Grand Junction. You can see some buildings there at the foothills. Other than that, it's pretty much nothing. So I hope you enjoy the Colorado National Monument. My overall thoughts, should you come here? If you love hiking and overlooks, absolutely. It is definitely worth it. There's going to be some hikes that put you right on canyon edges. If you're a long-term hiker, there's actually kind of an unmaintained trail through the canyon center. And so where I'm at here, there's actually one of the outtakes that goes to that. And it will literally go all the way across the canyon from Grand Junction to Fruita. So if you're that zesty to do that, then that looks like a fun trail as well. I wish I would have the time to do that one, but it's about a 7-mile hike straight across through the canyon there. And so that's good. Now, if you do come here, I would come in the Grand Junction side and drive to the Fruita side. The Fruita side is definitely more impressive. You'll get rid of all the boring stuff earlier, and most importantly, almost every outtake where you're going to park and where you're going to see the sights and the overlooks are going to be on a right-hand turn if you're coming from Grand Junction, but they're all on a left-hand turn if you're coming from Fruita. And so I end up passing a lot of the outtakes that I might have stopped in if I didn't have to cut across and risk crossing traffic around a blind corner. And so definitely come from the Grand Junction side if you are visiting the park. And then you'll get a chance to visit most of the park, see a lot of the overlooks, and then you hit the visitor center and learn a little bit more about the history. Definitely stop in there. And The trails that I did are off of the visitor center. The Canyon Rim Trail is on the visitor center, and I also did the Otto's Trail, which is half a mile down the road from the visitor center. And then this one is the Devil's Kitchen, which is very close to the Grand Junction side. Now, there's also a picnic area, and there is another trail. It's a slightly shorter trail. If I had more time, then I would do that one. It's called the Serpent's Trail. And so that one looks fun as well. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the monument here. Definitely check it out if you are in the western central Colorado areas. Thanks for coming along, guys. We'll see you later on Tux Traveler.